Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be covering beta 1.198020, and within this beta the very first change is the cherry wood. Woot woot! As you can see up here in these mountains as well, these cherry tree biomes are absolutely everywhere and they are just truly beautiful. Once you're inside this biome, you can find these pink petals all over the ground. You can craft these into pink dye if you are interested in those. In this biome, you can find pigs, sheep, rabbits, and bees. But cows will not spawn in this biome. I do kind of think that's an interesting choice. I'm not entirely sure why they decided that, but I think it works alright. I love how all these leaves emit the particles, and I also like that they're not necessarily fully pink. They have little bits of green leaf in them here and there. Now, this biome is actually supposed to be relatively rare for the player to find. It is also going to be most likely found in mountains. It's kind of like the meadow biome, where you'll find these trees on top of mountains, like over here at this oak. That is usually where you're going to find this. The odds of you finding this biome in a flat plains biome, very, very unlikely. But I think it is incredibly cool. I'm not entirely sure that I'm in love with the color of the pink, but I will say, just this plain generic log, I definitely plan to use that quite a bit. And the sapling, I truly love the way the sapling looks, especially in a pot. It just looks amazing. So that is what all the pink wood looks like, if you haven't seen it already in Java Edition. After that change, we are on to the decorative pots. Now, these have made a few slight changes. First of all, you can no longer place items that like hang or have to go on the side of a block on the side of them. So that's been dealt with. You can no longer place stuff on the side. Second, they do not stack in your inventory anymore. As you can see, I cannot stack these. They have to stay separate. I think that's also an interesting change, but I think it works and I kind of like it. Third, they changed the spout of it. Because previously, when you tried to place a pot in this area on the top of it, the two textures of both the pot and then this flower pot would like mix. They would mix and there would be a lot of flashing because they're trying to fight as to which one you're going to see. So they added this little bit of a ring around it, so there's no longer any Z fighting and it just looks truly beautiful and elegant. Also, the decorative pot, they made a small change to the way you find the arrow one. That can now only be found in the desert wells. Suspicious sand, but all the others can be found in either temples or wells. Now, they made a small change to suspicious sand. First of all, now it can actually connect to fences. Previously, it could not. Also, it can no longer be waterlogged. Previously, it could. Now it cannot. There was also a change to the way you craft the brush. Previously, it was 1 stick and 3 string. Now it is 1 stick, 1 copper, and 1 feather, which I actually like a lot more. I think it makes it feel a bit more realistic, because, I mean, string just didn't make sense to me. I'm very pleased with the feather. Now, once again, just like last time, when you're using this on suspicious sand, if you got the sand out of the creative menu, it will never drop anything. But I went ahead and I found a desert temple and a desert well. Now the temple, because it's mostly in the ocean, doesn't actually have any sand around it. But this one I found and it has an item in it. Previously I did not know this, so I couldn't get it to work. But if we just go ahead and start brushing the sand away, you can see a pot shard emerging out of the side of the block. And there it is. This is the arms up pottery shard. So it does work. You can actually find items in it. I was just very unaware of some of the details with it last time I tested it. Now, there has been a change to camels. Now, when it comes to riding a camel with the dash attack, or not attack, but the like dash run, it will actually stop. Previously there was a bug where it would just keep running like infinitely, but yeah, it does stop. So your camel will not be infinitely charging. Next up, there was the addition of the 1.5 block tall crouching once again. So we can actually crouch and walk under this. Still bugs with, you know, third-person cameras and everything, but it's here. We can mess around with it. That is nice. Now, if you do want to play with this yourselves, you have to actually go ahead and turn on the half-block crouch toggle, and that's just in your world settings along with the other ones like Sniffer and the experimental update ones. Alright everybody, now for this next change, Mojang did something that I don't like. If we go ahead and hop into survival mode, Mojang has changed the death screen. So if we go ahead and die, the text is now much smaller. There is no main menu button, and the respawn button is now green. You guys are gonna have to tell me what you think about this. I personally hate it. While I will agree, okay, it looks clean, it looks nice, it's new, it's interesting. I do personally not like it, but let me know what you guys think about it, because some people might like it. Next up, there was a glint slider added. So what we're going to go ahead and do is grab a enchanted item. So there it is, our enchanted shield. Now, the glint on both the item and in like actual game, it looks very different. That is because there's now a glint slider. So now, whenever we go into settings, if we go to the accessibility tab, which I'm normally not in, I've never really been in here, there are now two new toggles for glint. So there's glint strength, which is just how transparent it is. By default, it's at 50. And then there's also speed, which by default is at 50. Now, if we just go ahead and up both of these to 100, as you can see, it's going a lot faster. I think normally it was probably set to this, or maybe 75, a bit slower. But I do like that you are able to customize this. And if we go ahead and set these to 0, even though this is enchanted, as you can see, it has mending. You don't actually see that, it just looks normal. So I will say it is going to be entirely up to player preference. I really don't know where I think I'm going to leave this. As of right now, I think we're going to try 65% and just see how these look. Because I do like the look of this purpley stuff, but I'm not, you know, I don't want the speed necessarily as much. So if we maybe lower the speed down to, let's say, 30, but we put the strength of the glint up to, let's say, 50, what's that look like? It's barely visible. It is going to take some fiddling around with, and if you do, like, you know, just kind of want to mess with it, go ahead and have fun with that. There's a lot that can be done with it now. I think I'm just going to leave mine at 100 by default, though. Now, for this next one, there is a change to crouching and flying. But it's not what you are thinking. So forever now, there has been this thing where if you're flying with Elytra and you hit your crouch button, you can crouch while flying. And the best way for you to see that is just like this. Now, that's what I thought they fixed when I read this, but it turns out it's not. When you're flying, if you were to hit both spacebar and shift, you would crouch previously. Now you just continue to stand straight up. But, if we look, even though I'm standing straight up, you can place blocks under chests or hoppers even while you're hitting both keys. I personally think that's a little weird. I would have just left it so that you can crouch by hitting both buttons. I would have fixed the Elytra one, actually. So I do think that is an interesting change, but all around, I mean, it's nice, I guess. Now, for this next one, campfires have been made louder and more clear. So if we just listen to this audio for a second. The sound of the campfire is a lot more prominent, and you can just hear that sizzling, crackling campfire. It's just, honestly more atmosphere, and I love it. Next up, there's been a change to the pants and boots. So you know how these pants and boots, the two like collide? So like that's what the boots go up to, and that's what the pants go up to. So like in that middle bit of the texture, they're actually colliding. Previously, there's, been an issue where they would fight each other, so the pants would sometimes show, other times the boots would show. That no longer happens, now the boots will always be shown over the pants. Ooh. Now, this next one, I was actually kind of surprised by this change, but I think it's actually very nice, and I like this one a lot. Now, when you successfully make a trade with a villager, there will be a bunch of those green particles floating around them. I never really knew that this was on Java. Apparently it is, but I think it makes it a lot more interesting. It adds this just immersedness to the villager that was never there before, and I truly love it. I didn't think I would, but I love it. Now, for this final one, there has been a change to boats. So Mojang has made it so mobs that are now bigger than the boat cannot get in the boat. So mobs such as spiders and hoglins, even polar bears, now can no longer get in the boat. Now I thought maybe they would still be able to get into the raft and it's just a boat thing. No, they cannot get into rafts either. So if you have ever been, wanting to build that zoo and move some polar bears around, I would recommend you go ahead and try and do that now, before this change rolls out, because because that does kind of make that harder to do. Also, that Zoglin just killed the villager. I did not think that through. But what I found interesting was the fact that Mojang made it so those mobs could not get in the boat because they were supposedly too big. But you know what they did change in the changelog? Now turtles can get in the boats. And rafts. That does not make any sense at all to me. The turtle is literally sticking out of the boat. It is so big and chunky. I don't understand how these guys got removed for being too big, but these fellas got added so they can go into it. It just don't make much sense to me. I personally would like to see the raft get an exclusive feature so that no matter what size the mob is, it can fit in there. I think that would personally be a really cool feature because it just makes people need to use a raft for certain things rather than just kind of having it be there. Something that players probably aren't going to use that much, actually. Of course, I don't know if Mojang is actually going to do that or not, but Mojang, if you do watch this video, that would be a really cool feature if rafts could fit any size mob in them, compared to the normal boat, which can only fit smaller mobs. Now, of course, if you haven't already, do be sure to go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Also, as always, the changelog will be linked down below, because there are plenty more changes than just that. But these are the big ones, the actually interesting and cool ones. A lot of the others were just small tweaks so that your game doesn't crash as much and visually looks and plays better. But there were some smaller things in there. If you are interested, go read that yourself. Also, this is the first beta of 1.19.80, meaning there should be a full release for 1.19.70 coming out within the next 2 or 3 weeks. So do be sure to make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you get notified when that drops and I make a video on it. Anyways, this has been Mr. Gaming Aquatic, and I'll see you next time. Bye!